Why, hello, Tigrin. How have you been? Alright, let's try that again with the music down. Hello, Tigrin. How have you been? Oh, what a lovely shot. Alright. Time to paint, time to paint, time to paint, time to paint. Didn't have anything prepared for Monday's Weird Source stream, so I'm like, okay, well, we'll do that next week. Get some news stories, get some events that are going on, and then we'll do that next week on the other channel. So today is going to be a paint day. Hey, Heather. Oh, you sick? Yeah, so both of my husbands got COVID in the last several months ago. My first husband got it twice. But let's see, what shall we work on here? Getting close to just finishing these off, at least for the washes. And I can start doing highlights and the opaque stuff. I guess for starters, we'll get these flowers in here. There we go. I could bring. Alright, where's my hooker's green? Yeah, so to catch you up, I was working on a Sonic the Hedgehog episode for the art channel. Gonna be, I got 3 drawings actually. One for the related to the movie, one related to the current state of things, and then this one related to the one that we all hold near and dear to our hearts, the Saturday AM Sonic the Hedgehog series. Only time anyone put effort into the Sonic lore, in my opinion.
Sorry, I hope you fell better soon.
I got it back in January. Yeah, it's no joke. So far I've been lucky. We've all got the vaccine and the booster, so it really made it mild compared to like what other people have faced. I have yet to even get it, ever. I guess I must be immune or just lucky in that sense. Alright, let's see. Let's go fix these mushrooms. One more layer for these mushrooms. Magenta. Come out, magenta. I guess I'll have to use the sponge method for the variety and color in there. Various greens and yellows. I am very happy how this has been getting done a lot faster than like the other ones. But doesn't change the fact I have several videos I want to do. Hopefully, I don't think I'll have time to record them today. I'm gonna have to make the effort and maybe put this aside for one day to record it. Record all the audio I have in mind for the stuff I wrote up. Then this weekend, assuming nothing goes on this weekend, I can actually get some editing done. But I say that every weekend and then nothing gets. That's how it goes. Keeping myself social. Had two Pfizers and a Moderna. Oh, that's good. Yeah, my second husband developed like rashes. Those have gone away, thankfully, after he got a steroid. I haven't had any problems. My first has been having problems with bowels, but other than that, been, pretty smooth sailing. Pretty smooth sailing. Alright, let's add some color to these vines. And a little more color to these vines. And then I'm going to start working on the characters. And for the sake of filming, I'll do Rotor, Bunny, Antoine, Tails. Antoine, Sally, Knuckles. You know, I should probably put some like damage around his knuckles there so it looks like he's actually hitting the thing. Robot. It gives a sense that it's vulnerable in some sense. I don't know. All I know is this magenta's bringing up the vines a little bit better. Use that. Rate those colors. Now to figure out how we're going to color the characters here. All my references. I wish we could watch some of the episodes, but you know, these companies are such fucking copyright hogs. They freak out when you do that. As if the money hasn't already been made for the show. But it's gotta have a little bit more. A little bit more. I just hope the season 3 that's being worked on right now. In fact, yeah, we can check in on that instead. You know, that's related to what we're doing. Any updates on the season 3 project? I need to see if I can score an interview with them. Remember, kill them once, wait for a response, don't get a response, in 2 weeks, kill them again. Reasonable. Color up some of these flowers. Let's see. Got yellow, orange.
Cooler magenta.
Damn right. Alright. Let's see what's going on. What is everything's terrible has to... that guy on the left.
They thank him for spaghetti, for garlic, and for spice.
You're not the only one who says grace. You're not the only one who prays. All over the world, every place, people are saying grace.
In France,
They thank God for good bread.
In England, fish and chips.
The Greeks thank God for shish kebab, 'cause it makes them lick their lips. Yummy, yummy! You're not the only one who says grace. You're not the only one who prays. All over the world, every place, people
my
are
nightmares.
saying grace. Now the kids in the good old USA with hamburgers and fries.
Forget a little bit of racism.
I hope it doesn't give your milk a shake when you realize you're not the only one who says grace. You're not the only one who prays. All over the world, every place, people are saying grace. All over the world,
yes.
every place, people are saying, grace. Amen.
Let's have donuts for dessert.
That was terrible. What we got? Q&A. Alright, what else is there going on? Yeah, there was one other thing I wanted to do. Expect to get such attention? I would assume I would get attention for
I'm
this.
the marketing coordinator and socials person at Team Season, and I'm here with Paul, our producer, to do a quick, brief Q&A for all of the questions that we've been receiving since our trailer. Paul, why don't you let us know who you are and let us know how long you've been involved with the project.
Hey guys, I'm Paul. I've been with Fans United for Saturday M since 2002. I took ownership, I think, in
Let's see what else
2010.
you got.
We started the comic in 2010. That led to our first kind of go at the animation in 2013.
That's
I didn't like what I was going because I had no idea what I was doing. Then back in 2019, we started up again, and here we are today. I brought together a good team, and we're pushing this through.
Yeah, so I'm just looking through a list of questions that our Discord has put together, and they really want to know, did you expect to get such attention from the community after the release of this trailer?
Sonic the Hedgehog.
No, I was expecting the trailer would actually push, excuse me, do something good, but we got massive amounts of questions or views and asked for interviews, and I wasn't expecting to hear that much.
Yeah, neither was I. I was so nervous when we had set up the premiere on YouTube and just waiting for that moment and waiting for the reactions. I had no idea how people are going to react.
Okay, this
And
channel
to be
seems
honest with
legit.
you, I didn't have my phone with me at that time, and I was just in knots, like terrified to see how they would react. So it was super exciting for me to see that
Sonic the
so well. So with
Hedgehog might be the fastest thing alive, but if there's one thing he can't outrun, it's the law. Now, the Sonic franchise has gone through several highs and lows throughout time.
I know, it's getting weird seeing people that are like 10 years younger than me doing this stuff. It's like, fucking kids, get off my lawn.
But unless you've actively been keeping up with them, you might not realize that the Sonic comics are a massive deal in the comic book industry, and they have been wrapped up in one of its biggest series of legal battles. These books are infamous for how straight up bonkers they are. From Tails fusing with his many multiversal variants to become a massive titan of nearly endless power, to Knuckles having been revealed to have been a genetically modified super weapon because his dad experimented on him as a kid, to one character straight up dying from eating a chili dog that was laced with LSD. See, although it started with silly slapstick humor, the Sonic comics evolved into an insane furry political soap opera with minimal oversight from Sega, which they would come to regret considering that things got so unbelievably absurd both in the comics and behind the scenes that Sega had to come in and completely destroy the comic book universe twice. And at the center of it all is one man, the single most hated person in the entire Sonic fandom, the mad god of Sonic himself, Kenneth W. Penders II. By weaving his way through the law, Ken Penders managed to walk away with over 200 characters, and is now using them to create this. And how it ended up happening is truly bizarre. So for my 400,000 subscriber special, I have combed through pages.
I missed that.
Happening is truly bizarre.
What the hell
so for my
is that?
400,000 subscriber special, I have combed through pages and pages worth of legal documents, publications, and blogs to capture all of the twists and turns of this massive debacle. Strap in, folks, because this one's a doozy. Hello and welcome to Comic Drake, where I talk about comic books and my name is Drake. Let's talk about it. Okay, it's the middle of summer in Texas. I cannot keep wearing this. It's too damn hot. But before jumping into things, I need to give a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online community with thousands of inspiring and creative classes. As a tabletop game designer, Skillshare has been a great asset, such as Ben Panther's class on Game Design Foundations. And also, I took Roxanne Gay's class on creative writing. This show, lovingly referred to as Sonic SATAM by its fans because of its Saturday morning time slot, is rather different from the small handful of video games that were released at the time. In this continuity, Dr. Robotnik had already succeeded in taking over the world before the events of the show, and it was Sonic's mission to take him down with the help of the Freedom Fighters, a group of animal commandos that were created specifically for this cartoon. Although SATAM was certainly darker than Sonic media up until that point, it was still very lighthearted, and the comic that followed, produced over at Archie Comics, was much more the same, if not more childish. The early issues were extremely silly and downright nonsensical at times, like when Sonic got flung into an alternate dimension where he met a couple of physics-defying imps named Vertical and Horizontal. Remember them because they're actually going to come up later. But when the comics editor heard that one of the writers might be stepping down, he started looking for someone, anyone, to take over. The editor approached a man named Mike Kantarovich for the job, but Mike had never even heard of Sonic before, prompting him to hit up his close friend and colleague, Ken Penders, who had a son that was an avid video game fan. Although Penders was by no means a big-name creator at the time, he had worked for plenty of big comic publishers, including Marvel, DC, and even Disney, which, by the way, used to be a huge deal way back in the day. For context, Donald Duck is, to this day, the single most published comic book character outside of the superhero genre. Penders and Kantarovich got the job and were basically allowed to do whatever they wanted, with neither Sega or Archie Comics giving them any guidelines on what kind of stories they wanted, or even what the characters they were writing were supposed to be like.
We would just pitch story after story, and we had no feedback whatsoever. They didn't tell us what stories to write. They didn't tell us what the characters should be like. The only thing they said was Sonic is cool and hip. That's it. That's the only direction we were given. You know, he has attitude.
Despite the lack of direction, Ken and Mike's Sonic comic was a rousing success, but it quickly turned into a solo project for Ken as Mike decided to journey out to greener pastures. As time went on, the tone of the series shifted from slapstick humor to something quite a bit more serious, like this whole sequence about how Sonic now understands the true meaning of war. Oh, and remember Horizontal and Vertical? Well, Ken turned them into robotic demigods that went to war with each other because each of them believes the other is responsible for the near destruction of their dimension.
Jesus.
Look, these comics were weird. Penders was absolutely obsessed with his creations, heavily focusing on their romantic lives and constantly introducing long-lost relatives, especially with Knuckles' family. Like, this dude even put out an extensive family tree, painstakingly laying out his lineage, which also reveals that his girlfriend is a distant cousin. Like, I get that it's so far back that the familial relation doesn't really matter, but they don't have to be related. You don't have to write that. But hey, I mean, keep the bloodline pure, I guess. The Knuckles stuff used to just be tacked on to the back of the Sonic comics, but eventually he got his own book, allowing for the Knuckles lore to wildly spin out of control, more or less interrupted by the main Sonic series. Additionally, because of that, the Knuckles comics were almost entirely about Ken's own original characters, so he wasn't beholden to most of the few guidelines that Sega demanded. So Penders could basically do any storyline that he wanted. But out of all of his creations, it's Lara Sue, the future daughter of Knuckles, that Penders has the greatest fascination with, and it'll inform a lot about his future. ultimately leading to... Regardless, the Sonic comics were a massive success, thanks to the character's popularity in other mediums, a highly devoted fan base, and actually selling the comics in places like grocery stores instead of dedicated out-of-the-way shops. It's almost as if selling stuff where people are actually going results in people buying it. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, that's exactly where I saw my first Spawn comic and my first Sonic comic was at a fucking, like, grocery store. Some kid saw me reading it. One of the boys at my school saw me reading it, and he gave me a bunch of shit for it the other day, so I stopped reading comics for the next 12 years. Because I didn't want to give the kids any more ammo to make fun of me with. And so, yeah, I had a huge collectathon for, like, I don't know, 3 years of my life. When I hit 19, started collecting comics, especially... I started collecting the Sonic comics, too, when I got an unofficial scan of all the comics up until the current point when I bought them. I didn't read any of them, though. I didn't have time. They didn't seem that interesting. I guess I was just collecting them for the sake of collecting them. Then I wanted to do my own thing with it. But, you know, college, work, kind of kept me from going too far into it. And of course now, after I'm done with this, it's just like, well, I'm going to concentrate on my own stuff. Got a commission to do for Ratchet and Clank. And I think, man, I can't remember what else I wanted to do. Oh yeah, I wanted to draw a thing of the littlest guillotine, but I'm kind of over that now, so I guess it won't happen. Sorry, deep fat fried.
Due to his clout within the Sonic franchise, Penders was invited to work on other official stuff, like the cover art for the DVD box set of SATAM. But Ken decided that he wanted to be even more involved, leading to his magnum opus, Sonic Armageddon. In 2002, Ben Hurst, one of the writers for SATAM, pitched a continuation of the classic show as either a new season or as a movie. When word got to Penders that Hurst was trying to get the ball rolling, he wanted in. Although Ben brought Ken on board, Penders stabbed his new collaborator in the back and went directly to Sega, essentially telling them, "Hurst is trying to take the hedgehog for his own. End him, and give the rodent to me. I'll bring you something beautiful." For some reason, Sega actually listened to Ken, and he went off to work on
He was friends with the
this
president of
pitch.
Sega at the time, before he died.
Uncle Chuck!
That's why. You missed that part.
Uncle
Ken was
Chuck.
actually like buddy with him.
Whoa.
So, you know, they
very
could do like some
cool.
shit like this. Sorry, what does he do with his time?
Oh my
He's
god,
able to
I
just-
really wish I could show you more of this, but because of how trigger-happy Penders gets with lawsuits, which, trust me, we will be getting into later in the video, I honestly think that he would try to take me to court over this. I mean, hell, I'd be extremely surprised if he didn't try to take down this entire video, regardless. But still, I need you guys to remember something extremely important here. Ken legitimately went to Sega and sat them down to watch this pitch.
Whoa.
Now, the concept art that Penders drew up for the project was significantly better than the video, but Sega obviously declined the pitch, though they didn't seem too turned off by the dude since Ken was still allowed to work on the Sonic comics with, again, minimal oversight. This allowed Penders and his cohorts to continue to do whatever they wanted, like make a group of Nazi echidnas that straight up do the Sieg Heil. And also, they took one of the most famous poems about the Holocaust, but changed up the words to make it about foxes and hedgehogs. Big yikes. All Sega ever really asked of Ken and his collaborators was to occasionally incorporate the recent game releases into the comic's plot, but they also refused to send him any of the games in question, or even resources for them to know what the games were even about. This came to a boiling point in 2006, when Penders was asked to incorporate the Shadow the Hedgehog game into the comic, causing him to leave in order to pursue work where he had a bit more creative control, specifically in Hollywood. Yeah, Ken, good luck with that.
Whoa.
One of these projects was a political drama called The Republic, and all that ever got produced was a pilot episode, and it's not good.
Oh man, I'm late. I gotta go. Man, I'm late. I gotta go. Oh, hey Betty, wait, careful. I got coffee. Bye-bye.
Penders also launched an indie comic in the year 2000 called The Lost Ones, which is about Japanese superhumans that were mutated descendants of those who survived the nuclear bombs dropped in World War II. The comic was cancelled after just one issue, but Ken was so convinced that this was a, quote, best-selling comic that he wanted to turn it into the next great superhero film. Here's a clip from the trailer because it was very much not that.
Seems to be the story for a lot of people. Yeah, this whole video I'm working on is kind of like me getting this shit out of my system once and for all. Before I put this character and everything else to bed. Now, I will admit that this fan project behind the season 3 that has nothing to do with this Ken Penders weirdo, that does interest me. I'm like, all right, you know, once I thought I was out, they dragged me back in. And depending on when I get this episode done, I have a little skit planned for it. So. Alright, what's next? Flowers. Alright, let's get started on Rotor. Yeah, we'll do the supporting characters first. Rotor, Bunny, Antoine, Sally, then go backwards, Knuckles, Tails, and then Sonic.
But the point is that I don't care what you're a fan of as long as you treat others with kindness.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I expect that too. But yeah, I kind of like I left I don't want to say I left Sonic fandom. I was never part of it, whatever. I just like lost interest in that character because I could tell that was Sega and how they're handling things, that it was never going to go in any direction I would want to see it to go. And I'm not part of Sega, and I never will be. So I have no say in what direction they're going to take the characters at. Like, even the movies. Like, I enjoyed the movies to a degree. I still have my problems with it, especially now with the third one having Shadow in it. Because they're probably going to end up having Rogue in there too. I wonder if they're going to hide her cleavage. Yeah, that was my other problem. That's like one of my problems, right? The designs of the characters. And I did like how they fixed Sonic's eyeball in the movies. Because Tails was never like that. And I did like the design for Knuckles in them. And like, the Saturday AM designs are fine. But for some reason, the designs for like Big the Cat, Rogue the Bat, and the others just look weird and awful to me. Never liked it. And as far as stories go, the stories are just puke in the games. Like, outside of the first 3, which were just simple, yeah, which are just simple, well, kind of like the movies. The first 2 movies were pretty simple in terms of their plot and structure and everything. But the later games, like, Like they're trying to be more ambitious without and knowing how to write a story. Or just not give a shit. To the point where it just makes you cringe. I'll tell you the moment I broke. The moment I broke was when Sonic Heroes came out. And I was playing that game. It was so insultingly easy, but at the same time completely frustrating because of the bugs in the game, causing you to fall through the floor, not able to properly grind a rail. I'm done. I'm done with this franchise forever. And then I finally played Sonic Generations, like a few years after it came out, I think, too. I'm like, oh, okay, this is pretty good. Sonic's back, y'all. Alright, Rotor. You're up first. Figure out how we're going to film you. Good idea. We'll change the battery. And so I wrote my own comic. And I think for a video it'll be fun just to read my comic because of how edgy it is. Essentially took advice from Frank Miller that, you know, that you want to take a time where you're making crappy art and crappy stories and do fan art with that, so that when it comes to your own projects and your own original ideas you want to do, you have all the skills and lessons learned at that point, so you don't fuck it up. So that's what I did. I did a fan Sonic comic in order to try to improve my art skills and knowledge on Photoshop and whatever. Alright, what do we got here? Got like this really weird purple. I like that color for him. Yeah, so I make him blue, then it just looks like a Sonic with walrus features. Kind of got like this purple to him. Alright, make sure you can see that and get to work on him first. Good old worried warder. Back to video. Oh, I had to see this trailer. This is fucking horrendous. This is the shit that really frustrates me. Like, with jealousy. Like, here you have a guy who obviously doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Doesn't have the skill or the means to properly film something like this, like a show or pilot, TV show, or pitch a movie properly. And yet he's getting all these opportunities to do just that. There is no justice in this world. Other designs I have for Rotor.
To this day, Penders is still trying to get every single one of these projects off the ground. And you know what? More power to him. In any other circumstance, this would be where the story ends. This video would just be some lighthearted laughs about an eccentric creator and the weird stuff that he and his collaborators produced. But like I foreshadowed at the top of the video, what follows is one of the most insane legal battles in all of comic history. Penders is a complete underdog, and throughout this next segment, it's going to seem like he doesn't have a leg to stand on. The man makes a complete buffoon of himself at every turn, and yet despite it all, he ended up winning the suits, and essentially walked away with the rights to an entire comic book universe.
That he'll never utilize.
In 2008, BioWare released an RPG for the Nintendo DS called Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. Although the game was just okay, Sonic Chronicles was a love letter to all things Sonic, which of course included the comics. The antagonists of the game are the titular Dark Brotherhood, aka the Nocturnus Clan, a group of ancient echidnas that were sealed away within a dimension called the Twilight Cage by Knuckles' ancestors. There is zero doubt that these guys were inspired by the Dark Legion from the Archie comics. You know, a group of ancient echidnas that were sealed away within a dimension called the Twilight Zone by Knuckles' ancestors. But where things got real messy is that Sonic Chronicles prominently featured a character named Shade, an ass-kicking female echidna that defected from the Nocturnus Clan. Just like Julie Sue, Ken's writer's pet, who is an ass-kicking female echidna that defected from the Dark Legion. Now, this shouldn't be an issue. After all, Pender's is working with Archie Comics as a work-for-hire freelancer, and everything he wrote for them is the legal property of Sega. He even said as much himself in an interview with Sonic HQ News in 1999, stating, quote,
"Part of the contract Sega has with Archie stipulates any and all characters created in the Sonic & Knuckles comic books become property of Sega. Thus, Sega now owns everything I created in the Knuckles series, including Locke, Lara Lee, and Julie Sue, to say nothing of characters like Jeffrey St. John, Hershey, Dr. Quack, and Robbo the Hedge, to name but a few."
In spite of all of that, Pender still thought that he deserved a cut of the game's profits, and demanded that Archie's editor-in-chief, Victor Gorelek, give him a copy of his original contract, to which Gorelek replied, "There isn't one." This prompted Ken to go ahead and file copyrights for everything that he had ever done for the company, including his original characters. And listen, for as much as I have been and will continue to shit on Penders during this video, I actually have to side with him here. These stories and characters were oftentimes weird and unnecessary, but they were his weird and unnecessary stories and characters. And if Archie was going to be this incompetent with their filings, then Ken would be stupid not to try and take full ownership of his work. Yeah, everyone, himself included, understood that Sega should own the work, but as someone that believes in creators' rights, I think this was a valid move. On top of that, Archie Comics has a long and storied history of screwing over its creators. Most famously, there's Dan DeCarlo, who developed the entire Archie style and created some of the most famous characters like Sabrina the Teenage Witch and Josie and the Pussycats. I mean, hell, Josie is even named after his wife. DeCarlo worked at Archie Comics for decades, but was never given a proper cut of the earnings when his creations were adapted into other mediums, so he sued his employer. But they clapped back with, "Nope, you were work for hire, bucko," and they fired him. Which, I mean, yeah, that's accurate and can't be disputed, but that's not the most egregious issue. What brings my blood to a boil is how DeCarlo was scrubbed from the history of Archie Comics altogether, such as this page that breaks the fourth wall as Betty declares him to be her favorite artist. But when it was re-released, the dialogue was completely rewritten to remove any mention of DeCarlo. Once again, I am not a fan of Ken Penders, but a victory here against Archie Comics is a victory for creators all over the industry who have been taken advantage of and disrespected by the companies they worked for. Regardless, the US Copyright Office sent notices of Ken's filings to both Sega and Archie, allowing them an opportunity to challenge his claim of ownership. But neither company responded, granting Ken victory by default. The best kind of victory. That being said though, if you actually take a look at the certificates that Penders filed, he was only seeking ownership for the text and art that he created. And from what I can see, there's nothing about the characters, which is interesting because that was what Ken was specifically boasting about owning. Even though I'm rocking this very stylish vest and tie combo, I am by no means a copyright lawyer. But several of them have taken a look over these documents, and if the characters weren't involved, then you would think that somebody would have brought that up. And since they didn't, then we can just assume that for all intents and purposes, Ken's filings did in fact give him copyright of these characters. With his ownership of the IP now cemented, Pender sent a cease and desist letter to Archie, claiming that their continued use of his original characters was completely unauthorized. Although editor Mike Paraletto claimed that Ken's claims were, quote, bizarre and unfounded, and that a single phone call from Archie's legal team would have sent him packing, the Penmeister refused to back down, stating that he would use, quote, every legal means at his disposal to protect and preserve his rights, challenging Archie to make a move. Oh, and in the meantime, Penders went ahead and sued Sega and Electronic Arts for ripping off his concept of the Dark Legion in Sonic Chronicles. Archie finally took defensive action by filing a lawsuit of their own against Penders, hoping to settle once and for all who properly owned the various stories and characters, even though they had previously dropped the ball entirely by not responding to the Copyright Office's invitation to challenge Ken's claims in the first place. Now, remember how Ken was told that his original work-for-hire contract didn't exist? Well, Archie managed to dig up a photocopy of one, and it was pretty sus. See, this document was signed in 1996, 2 years after Penders began his tenure on the Sonic comic. Archie's lawyers claimed this was because the original contract was lost or destroyed due to incompetence on their part, and Ken was given this one afterwards so they would at least have something on the record. Now, just to make things clear, this new 1996 contract was just a photocopy, with Archie's lawyers unable to find the original. And for those keeping track at home, this means that Archie somehow managed to lose 2 of Ken's contracts. Penders refused to believe this and took things a step further by asserting that the 1996 document was a straight-up forgery, and he claimed that a comic publisher like Archie would have all the tools and skills necessary to forge a document like this, which, although it's not inaccurate, that is a huge accusation. Considering that Ken had been so confident about his claims and was goading Archie to come at him, you would think that he wouldn't have any issue with duking it out with him in the courtroom. But as soon as the lawsuit was thrown his way, Penders tried his very best to have the entire case dismissed over a lack of jurisdiction since it was filed in New York. After all, Penders doesn't live in New York. He has never done business in New York, and he was living off of unemployment with less than $500 in his bank account, so he couldn't travel to New York for a court hearing. Again, I know I'm rocking the vest and tie combo, but I'm not a financial advisor. But if you don't have a source of income, maybe it's not the best idea to file over 135 copyrights at $45 a pop, hire a lawyer, and try to take on 2 of the biggest video game publishers of all time over one of the most famous mascots in all of gaming history, while simultaneously trying to claim ownership of a major comic book publisher's best-selling series because you think you own the concept of evil Sonic from an alternate dimension that wears sunglasses and a leather jacket. This motion to dismiss was denied, and Penders was flung straight into the fray. So yeah, at this point, Ken is dealing with 2 lawsuits at the same time, so things are going to get a little bit chaotic as we bounce back and forth between them. So let's start off with the Archie case, since that's definitely the most involved of the 2. Ken's team came out swinging with 3 letters from former Sonic comic writers and artists that all backed up his claims that they were never given work-for-hire contracts, with Scott Shaw also stating that he's following Ken's footsteps by registering copyrights for his creations as well, which he got. On top of that, Penders claimed that former Archie editor Justin Gabrey once told him that he had approached Archie's higher-ups with a suggestion that they include work-for-hire language on all of their checks, just to keep things above board, but he was told by those higher-ups that it was completely unnecessary. Archie's legal team insisted on referring to Ken's 1996 contract, and they clapped back at his assertion that it was a forgery, as it was mere speculation and conjecture at best, and at its worst, it's a perversion of our judicial system. When directly questioned about the document's authenticity while under oath, Penders immediately backed down like the spineless bastard that he is. Meanwhile, Ken's lawsuit over at Sega and EA was dismissed, despite all parties involved wanting to continue further. The judge basically told Penders that he needed to finish things up with Archie first, because the ruling of that case would have a significant impact on his lawsuit against Sega and EA. But ignoring this completely, Penders refiled the Sega EA case just 4 days later.
You can't say he backed down like a coward when you just told us earlier that he was broke. He backed down because he was broke. Not to defend the weirdo, but well, I'm a weirdo too. But come on, you gotta be a little fair in these things. Let's see. Claws are like deep blue purple or something. Layer of purple on there.
I see, I'm kinda a weirdo myself.
It is wild though. I mean, pretty hard for the course to hear comic book companies screwing over artists. I've heard of things of like being paid for exposure. Man, what else? Yeah, like you invent a character and they just take ownership of it. Like that's kind of fucked. Like when I make a song, right? If you make a song for a music label, they'll pay you royalties. Like, and depending on the contract, of course, but generally speaking, like most artists will get paid royalties, even if it's little pittance. They'll get paid royalties for their songs whenever they're played. That should be the rule whenever you invent a character, right? It's just get royalties every time they publish an issue of Spider-Man or whatever. Want to publish this character? You know, you pay up your little fee. You know, we live in a capitalist society. That's how you gotta do. Doesn't mean you can't be reasonable and negotiate for like fan projects and stuff like that. Take an email and be like, yeah, sure, why not? When it comes to certain things. Okay, what do we got here? We got silver belt buckle.
That is true.
Inch. Whatever. Have a layer of paint on there. A small brush. Yeah, I think painting these I've gotten a little more confident too. I'm able to get straight into final steps after I get all these washes on here. Solid color for that. These shoes. Steel toes. It's appropriate that he has steel toes, considering he the mechanic of the group. And I would picture him as like the one who mentors Tails and teaches him out everything that he knows. He's like the older one of the group. At least that's how he was made later. And Tails is like his apprentice. I like it gives him like a purpose for his character arc. Ultimately, in my mind, when it came to like writing a fan story, I wanted to have Rotor sacrifice himself for like the greater good at some point. Now, at this point, I probably want to do that because it's such a cliche, so I'll probably just have him like randomly get shot because that surprises people. That's how death usually is. It just most of the time just comes suddenly, unexpectedly, and oftentimes undeservedly.
Now, of course, I will take every single opportunity to continuously dunk on Penders, but refiling this quickly wasn't just because he was impatient. See, the statute of limitations on copyright infringement is only 3 years, which was fast approaching for Sonic Chronicles, so Ken was worried that if he didn't have his day in court as soon as possible, then he would miss out on the opportunity to receive damages. Now, it's worth noting that because this case was dismissed without prejudice, Penders could refile it at any time to collect said damages, but they would—
That's actually awesome to know, because, like, technically speaking, if you're, like, violating someone's copyright with a video or art project and they don't know about it and it blows up afterwards, and it's after 3 years, what can they do about it? Shit, that means that a Fox in Space is in the clear then. If that's the case, Nintendo can't come after him with copyright infringement. I'm sure they could, because they got money and they're billions of dollars, whatever, but funny to think that, though. That if you're low-key enough, you could like make your own little series on something and just get away with copyright infringement. It's kind of hilarious.
only be for the continued sales of the game. He wouldn't get a cent of the initial sales in 2008, which is where the vast majority of the purchases were made, unless he filed before the statute of limitations was up.
Next color. Black.
Even though this concern was plenty valid, the same judge dismissed Ken's refiling by basically telling him,
Order in the court, please. Okay, so before we get started, Ken? Guilty. I literally just told you to get your shit settled with Archie before coming back here. The hell are you breathing in my presence for?
In the midst of all of this, Penders unveiled his most infamous creation, the Lara Sue Chronicles, a series of graphic novels starring his original characters that would be a reworking of his plot for Sonic Armageddon. Remember, this was announced in the middle of the lawsuit against Archie Comics over these characters, so Ken covered his tracks by making the characters legally distinct. For one, the art style is different, to say the least. Also, these aren't echidnas. No, these are alien echidnias. Oh, and even if it was later decided that Penders did in fact own his original characters, it is impossible to deny that he doesn't and will never own Knuckles. So instead, Ken just renamed him to Knox, but made zero effort to differentiate him from the version that he wrote in a storyline in the future that he had made for the Archie Comics books. Speaking of Archie though, let's get back to that lawsuit. This should have been an open and shut case for Archie, but their incompetence every step of the way wasn't doing them any favors. So they straight up fired their entire legal team and hired a new one mid-trial. Eventually though, Penders and Archie's new team agreed to settle the case, but the two parties couldn't come to terms as to what that would even look like. During these negotiations, Archie Comics did their very best to wipe their hands clean of Ken's characters altogether. First, they had a villain basically yeet every echidna that wasn't Knuckles into an alternate dimension, never to be seen again. This was followed up by the incredible Mega Man Sonic crossover, which ended with a phenomenon called the Super Genesis Wave, which irreparably altered the Sonic comic universe by essentially obliterating all of Ken's over 244 characters out of existence and rewriting the timeline. I'll be honest, this isn't a huge loss since most of the characters were just the so many unnecessary echidnas, and people like Sonic, but a girl, and Sonic, but he's Robin Hood. And see, that's really the crux of it. The reason that Ken and Archie couldn't agree on a settlement was due to the nature of the majority of these characters being derivative works of characters that at the end of the day are clearly owned by Sega. Therefore, it was difficult to come up with a fair agreement of terms without Sega's direct involvement. But here's the crucial thing. If Daddy Sega got involved in the case, then Archie would have to be responsible for covering their legal fees, and they did not want to do that. Not to mention that bringing them in this incredibly stupid lawsuit would really hurt their working relationship. Because of the issue of derivative works, it was looking like this case was going to have to be taken to trial by jury, which would need its own approval. When Archie's new legal team came before the judge and laid out the situation, he said, quote, "So are you saying prior counsel blew it?" To which Archie's lawyer responded without missing a beat, "Absolutely, Your Honor." About a month later, the two parties were able to come to a settlement without taking the case to jury. Archie refused to acknowledge that Ken owns the copyrights to his characters, but agreed that they would not pursue legal action against him if the art specifically doesn't look or feel like it belongs within the Sonic universe. Which certainly explains why the Lara Sue Chronicles, looks the way it does. With this half win under his belt, Penders set his sights back on Sega and EA to finally see if he could get that pot of gold that he thought was owed to him from the sales of Sonic Chronicles. But the problem here is that even when he first filed this all the way back in 2010, the sales for the game had pretty much dried up. Or as Sega's lawyer put it in this released audio from the hearing,
he stated in his complaint that he believes that the sales began in July of 2008, but he didn't even file suit against my clients until May 31st, 2011, which is 2.5 years after the first sales allegedly began.
So it's now a thimble of gold.
Well, the pot was gone at that point.
And with that, the case against Sega and EA was at long last dismissed without prejudice. Throughout all these trials and tribulations, all Ken walked away with was an intense desire by all of these companies to never see him again. Archie doesn't republish his work, and the cliffhanger at the end of Sonic Chronicles is going to be forever unresolved, with the game itself being labeled as non-canon, with no plans for future sequels. And because the companies simply don't want to bother, Penders keeps making these self-indulgent victory laps by constantly going on Twitter to brag about his work and his quote-unquote wins in court. He is throwing every single character that he has ever made into the Lara Sue Chronicles because he knows nobody's going to do anything about it. though he doesn't realize that he's such small potatoes that it's easier for them to just let Penders be an annoying little pest than give him the time of day. Penders even decided to push the envelope by straight up stealing the character of Shade from Sonic Chronicles by giving her armor and name to Julie Sue, even though he had literally nothing to do with Shade's design or creation in the first place. But I mean, what are Sega and EA gonna do about it? Go back to court over a long-forgotten character from a long-forgotten game just because this man-child can't move on past his glory days? Look, there is zero doubt that Penders was a prolific creator and left a massive impact on the world of Sonic. But as it's done for almost 2 decades since his departure, it can do fine, and even better without him. Despite this, Penders is still chiming away on Twitter, constantly threatening more lawsuits which he never follows through on, while also constantly boasting about how he's more than happy to license his characters out to Sega for any Sonic-related project that they might want to do. And he's also open to license out his characters for original works as well, which he did, and led to its own controversy. And you know what? That is actually a great segue into our final segment, about all the other weird, bad, embarrassing, and gross stuff that Penders has been up to. Before we get into the licensing controversy, let's talk about some of the other weird and problematic stuff that Ken Penders is responsible for. I already talked about the weird Nazi shit in part 1, but how about how he's constantly trying to pair 16-year-old Sally Acorn with 25-year-old Joffrey, who is literally just Pepe Le Pew, but a soldier. But don't worry, it's okay, because Sally is actually 32 in squirrel years, and even if she wasn't, the age of consent in Utah is 16. Look, I don't trust anyone who knows what the age of consent laws are in random states off the top of their head. But what about the weird tickle fetish commission art that he did? How about the fact that he requires people to put his copyrights on their fan art and fan fiction? What about the time when Scourge impersonated Sonic and tricked Bunny into laying with him, where it's heavily implied that they had sex? That's just assault. And you know what? Okay, let's talk about Scourge. Originally, he was just an evil version of Sonic from an alternate evil universe named Evil Sonic. Well,
Whew. You know, maybe there will just be like a big fucking media crash, you know? And comic books can take off again. That'd be great. Especially if it's an indie scene, you know? Alright, I'll be right back though.
Pretty much.
Well, in literally the first issue after Penders left Archie Comics, the new Sonic writer Ian Flynn completely redid his character by turning him into the fan favorite Scourge the Hedgehog. In 2001 though, Penders decided to license Scourge to the indie publisher Rush Comics, but as you might have noticed, that name and design are all things that weren't the creation of Ken Penders, and presumably, he doesn't actually have the rights to hand those out. It's like how Winnie the Pooh is now a public domain character, but if you give him a red shirt, then that's Disney's version of the character, and you can get sued for that. Well, funny thing about the Scourge comic, the lead artist for the book was outed as being a white supremacist, and the Sonic community rightfully tore him to shreds. Plus, the writer's previous work was about a speedster character that ripped women's clothes off. So Assault. These dudes got so much backlash for that, and also just for being associated with Penders in the first place, that they had to cancel the comic in like a couple of days. They put out this really passive-aggressive apology and said that they refunded all of the donations, but here's the kicker. The Patreon that was funding them only got $29 in pledges. In other Penders trash, Ken announced his plans to get into the NFT game, with each of them priced at $100,000. Yeah, if you want to be the proud owner of this god-awful JPEG and access to bonus material for the weird Space Echidnia book that is probably never ever going to see the light of day, then go nuts. You never deserve to have that kind of money in the first place. We also have Ken getting up in arms about the live-action Sonic movies because there's echidnas in them, screaming to the heavens that those are his characters. Nothing has actually come out of this though, because Ken just loves to threaten lawsuits and then do literally nothing. But he has claimed that he's not scared of going to bat against Paramount. Maybe he's just waiting for the Knuckles TV show to drop so he can rage even more. Oh, and let's not forget that Ken also acts like he's the one that invented the concept of Sonic standing on a plane. Sir, that was from the goddamn video game. You didn't make that. The best thing that Ken Penders has ever done, it's like he's the one that invented the concept of Sonic standing on a plane. Sir, that was from the goddamn video game. You didn't make that. The best thing that Ken Penders has ever done was set the stage for his successor, Ian Flynn, to clean up his mess and rework the Sonic comics into something even better. Even when Archie Comics lost the rights to the Sonic license in 2017, Flynn went over to IDW to write the reboot. And you know what? It's really fucking good. And that's even with the fuck ton of mandates and restrictions from Sega, who are trying to prevent another Pendering from ever happening ever again. The IDW Sonic comics are, in my opinion, some of the best Sonic-related anything out there. And the love and passion that Ian Flynn has for his work and his fans is incredible. Meanwhile, Penders is constantly shit-talking about Flynn on Twitter because he's so desperate to live in the past. Ken Penders is a sad, sad man. He hasn't worked on Sonic in almost 20 years, and yet he's devoted his life to it. He's a deeply bitter narcissist who's constantly yelling about his detractors on Twitter and hyping himself up as this creative savant, despite having not delivered anything for his beloved Lara Sue Chronicles.
Exactly. Should be
Look, I get it. Twitter brings out the worst in people. The website actively encourages outrage, misinformation, and hate, with everybody trying their hardest to be witty assholes. I hate the person that Twitter encourages me to be, which is why I've left the platform entirely and hope to God that I am not masochistic enough to ever return to it. But Ken, I know you're watching this. You are deeply invested in your self-image, and you never miss an opportunity to engage in the digital self-harm that is watching negative videos about yourself. I have said a lot of mean things about you in this video, but I'm begging you, it's time to let Sonic go. Making yourself into this clown honking anytime an echidna shows up is not doing you any favors. Yes, I think your current art is absolutely disgusting to look at, but you have shown that you're capable of making decent stuff. The Lara Sue Chronicles is not going to be a hit. It's not even going to be mildly successful. And I know that you know that. The best thing that you can do is just move on, man. Get off of Twitter. Take a breather. Disengage from Sonic discourse and use that creative brain to make something original.
Yes.
But guys, that's it. That's all I have. I want to give a big thank you to the Thanks Ken Penders and the Amazing Sally Hogan Tumblr accounts, because they were great resources for researching this topic and putting me on the right track of where to start hunting down the legal documents that I used to put this all together. And hey, if you want to learn more about the IDW Sonic comics for yourself, then I made a video when they first came out that really captured my initial excitement. Who knows, if this video does well, then maybe I'll dive into those books for a future video. But anyway guys, I hope you learned at least a little something new, and hopefully, I'll see you next time.
They do kind of look like black claws.
This video is brought to you by Factor.
Alright, no. Picture. Have them and all. Really just like a dark blue. another yellow layer there. That should be dry by now. Very, very yellow hat. Is. And then add a nice little layer of gray. What is this? What? Lighten up later. I'll fix the whites on there later. Back on his belt here. And what about these socks? I guess those are black too. Good luck. Oops. turn off the music. Whoops. Yeah, I used to hang around the website, Fans United Sonic SATAM. The fact that they were getting in touch with like actual producers and stuff like that was interesting to watch. Like, you know, there's just like a certain way we all had in mind for Sonic to be, but like Sega wasn't having any of it ever. Yeah, Sonic 06, that was the moment where I was like, I'm just going to make my own Sonic. Seeing it from a distance at that point, there's so much more that could be done better with this character. But now, you know, after I'm done with this, like, I have my own ideas, I just make up my own characters with it. Get original. Alright. Let that cool off for a bit. We'll switch over to Bunny. Place the battery off my camera. Thing's hot to. It's almost too hot to touch. What are we gonna do with you? Let's see. Blonde. patch up the robot, make the gunmetal gray. Arms. I let some of this heat off camera. What else is up here?
Hi, T'Chall! How are you?
Yeah, let's go with the stream. Let's rate it. My 2 some odd viewers. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's just chilling. Phew. So, what's a docky? So, Tooncat, yeah, no, okay, Salamander already answered it. Never mind! I love hearing the lore of Sherburne. There's quite a bit of it. I just don't talk about all of it because then no one will watch the show or read the manga, right?
Have blood or actually or Sherburne?
Only those who are worthy can become mod. Well, no. People I trust and who have modded for me in the past are mods. I know them personally and I trust them. I trust them with my life. Except maybe Gabe. Maybe not you, Gabe. Are you gonna bring Razu? I mean, I don't know. Do you really want Razu? We're just kind of chill today. What world are you visiting? This is just kind of like we were looking at izakayas. This is called Adachi Alley. It's just kind of a Japanese, just one of those Japanese worlds where you're like, you know, it's just kind of like an alleyway with, you know, restaurants and stuff. It's, very quaint. And, damn, I want food now. And no, I do not want shaved ice again. Bye, 3! Thank you for joining us. Hey, what, Gabe? What? I said what I said! Damn right! Can you make a wiki page for the lore, or have you? Not yet, because if I make a wiki page, then I'm telling you everything that you haven't seen yet. Someone will do it. Someone's already made one, I think. But obviously,
Can't think of any good questions.
Anything official on there. Hello, Chim! I'm alright. It's been a rough week, but, you know, I'm getting by. Hopefully I will get by, like better, after this weekend. As long as Galileo makes it to Friday, and he can have the surgery, then he should be alright. He's a tough kitty, you know, he's, only like... We're not sure if he's 2 or 3. The vet says he's 2, and I swear he was 3, so 2 to 3-ish. And, you know, he's got his whole life ahead of him as a fat chunk. So we want to do what we can to make sure that he has a healthy and long life. You want shaved ice? Hey, Ice! Can we shave a little bit off you? Zara of us want some. That's gonna show up in the stream tomorrow, isn't it? I know it is. I'm praying for you and your cat. Thank you, Salamander.
There we go.
Bring her back. It's kind of not quite a Razu mood, but I mean, if that's what y'all want, then I guess Razu has to show up. Let's see. You want a Razu Daki? Wait, what? Pretty much! That's pretty much how it works, right? Suddenly you want stuff. Oh! I cut Sherbert off in mid-sentence. Hi, everyone! Hello! We want Sherbert. Oops. Oh. Okay, fine. I guess I'll leave. Bye, everyone! I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Aww. She came out for you guys, too. I guess it's okay. Don't worry about it! Roz will be fine. She's got an iron constitution. And thighs for days. One of those things. So, yeah, no,
I can't.
Yeah, your mom was talking about the kittens. So.
I defeated you once, and I shall do it again!
No, Magneto. I let you win before, in order to learn your plan, to trap you. But now the victory belongs to the Fantastic Four.
Fool! Have you forgotten my invincible magnetic power? No mere weapon can stop me. With but a gesture, I can destroy it, or turn it against you. Behold! I'll make it leap from your hand, and make you its target. Now!
Not this time, Magneto. This time I'm fighting for real.
It's impossible! It cannot be! Nothing can defy my magnetic power!
The Fantastic Four can. You're finished, Magneto. Surrender. You have no other choice.
Why? Why will the gun not obey me? My power is gone.
Anyone who says cartoons suck these days just need to show them this.
Magnetism! It was my greatest weapon, and without it, I am lost.
It's over, Magneto. You haven't a chance.
I surrender. I give up. Anything, anything. Without my power, I cannot fight.
And the battle is ended.
The signal.
What a battle.
Orders from the Fantastic Four. Close in. Take Magneto prisoner.
Here come the police. You won't be lonely much longer.
Okay, Richards. We'll take care of him now. First tell me, how did you do it? How did you take away my power?
I didn't, Magneto. I merely tricked you.
You lie! I couldn't control your gun. You made me lose my magnetism.
You're wrong. I just guessed that you'd overlook one simple thing. Your magnetic power only works on metal, like all magnets. But my gun isn't real. I made it out of wood, specially to fool you.
What? A wooden gun?
That's why your power didn't work. And it's why you're a prisoner of the police now.
Like he
Take 'em
can't
away,
just
man.
break out.
A wooden gun. He tricked me with a wooden gun.
Man, why did comic books have such a hard time getting a serious look in terms of, you know, shows?
Well,
and
Rich,
TV
we're
and
back
everything, and
for another
movies.
episode of Best of the Worst.
That's right, Mike.
Because that's the kind of shit that they were producing. All the way up until the 90s. Really? Did it? Oh, I just didn't turn it on. Turning it on, actually record. I couldn't stand the shit that they made back in the day. So like, Gargoyles was awesome. Yeah, when Spider-Man got more of a respectable show, it was just great. But yeah, for the longest time, like, that's the kind of shit that was just around. Because of mass self-censorship, that's how they were being written too, up until the 70s. But, like, I think even to this day, it's like in the zeitgeist, and, you know, comic books are just like a children's thing. I think now it's finally gone away. With our generation, my generation, the millennials, and the Zoomers and Gen Z or whatever. The trees there.
Fellow Mile here, even though I get confused or mistaken for a Zoomer by everyone else.
Then we just get a different color blue, shade of blue here, get the cobalt blue. Make it black. Off. Yeah. So yeah, round fruit. Thought I had more pictures of her work with. Got a bracelet. Somehow being a rough and tumble southern girl, she still has a purple eyeliner. And which version you're looking at. Let's see, pink is very much just a saturated red. We do have a pink mix. Not pink slime though. I don't know why, or what the hell all this shit about pink slime is coming around, but hey, that's something I can learn. What's with all the pink slime videos coming in my feed? Explain to me, internet. That pink nose makes more sense. He is a rabbit after all. see the difference. Probably add one more layer there. That black dry. Little. Right. For a second. And then. Compression gloves have some material on it that my skin is reacting to because I'm getting these in my hand. These off there. Good feel about them. And how I wash them. Do something caused me blisters. Not good. Okay. Oh, my bad. Alright. I have to call it for now. I gotta shave, get ready for the job, I'm gonna go to fast food. One more. Yep. Take care of yourself. Be safe. Don't get sick. Get better. Good night.